The door shook the frame when it slammed shut, rattling the glass, rattling his chest, rattling everything that had been holding on by a thread. She didn't just leave. She carved herself out of the room like a knife tearing flesh. Her last look burned hotter than her words. He hadn't moved. He COULDN single quotes. Her voice cut the silence before the door closed. Don't beg me. His answer had been a low growl, steady as stone. I won't. Her hand paused on the knob, shoulders stiff. One more line thrown back into the house like a curse, then hate me. Then the slam, and she was gone. He sat in the wooden chair, the sound still trembling through the walls. The lantern hissed on the table. Behind him came the cries, high and raw. The children awake now, pulled into the wreck by the noise. He didn't turn. His jaw locked so tight the muscles shook. Small feet on the floorboards. A boy's voice, thin, with sleep and fear. Daddy. He didn't answer. The girl cried harder, clutching her brother. Where's Mama going? The boy looked at his father, then away. He knew better than to push. The man's silence was louder than shouting. The chair creaked when he finally leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands hanging. His eyes stayed fixed on the door, as though it might open again. The fire in the hearth spit once, but the sound felt hollow in the empty space she'd left behind. The boy tried again, voice sharper this time. She's coming back, ain't she? The man exhaled, slow and heavy. He rubbed his face, then dropped his hands. Not tonight. The girl sobbed harder, her breath hitching against her brother's shoulder. He rocked her gently, eyes still watching his father. The boy wanted to believe him, but the words didn't carry hope. They carried weight. Silence sat thick, broken, only by the girl's whimpering. The man rose at last, crossing to the hearth. He grabbed the poker and stabbed at the coals, until sparks leaped like angry bees. Go back to bed. The boy hesitated. But bed. The word cracked like a whip. The children shuffled away, the girl's soft crying fading down the hall. The man stayed by the fire, staring into it until his vision blurred. He clenched the poker so hard, his knuckles split white. He thought of her hand on the knob, her voice, flat, cruel. Don't beg me. He thought of what he could have said, what he should have said, but nothing came. His pride had sealed his mouth, and now it sealed the house in silence. The fire sagged lower. He set the poker down, walked back to the table, and sat. His eyes caught the outline of her shawl still hanging on the hook by the door. He almost stood to take it down, but stayed put. Touching it would mean weakness. Weakness was begging. Weakness was opening that door and stepping out into the night. He whispered to no one, I won't. The words sat heavy, like a promise, like a curse. A floorboard creaked. The boy was back, peeking around the corner. Daddy. The man looked up, tired but stern. Didn't I tell you to sleep? The boy's lip trembled. It's cold. He sighed, softer this time, motioning him over. The boy padded across the floor, dragging his blanket. The man pulled the chair closer to the fire and sat him down. He tucked the blanket tight, then crouched low, his face close. She's gone, the boy whispered. The man didn't flinch. Yeah, she ain't. Coming back, is she? He wanted to lie. He wanted to tell the boy something easy, but the truth sat in his throat, bitter and stubborn. His eyes stayed on the flames, not the way she left. The boy didn't understand, not all the way, but he nodded like he did. He leaned against his father's arm, small body shaking. Less now. The man kept his eyes on the fire. His jaw tightened again. Every flicker in the flame reminded him of her face, her choice, the brother she'd chosen over him. The thought made his chest burn hotter than the hearth. The boy yawned, drifting in the chair. When his head tipped against his father's arm, the man gently lifted him, carried him down the hall, and laid him beside his sister. She stirred, eyes half open, whispering, Mama. He smoothed her hair back. Sleep, when they're breathing. Steadied, He stood over them for a long moment. Their faces looked small, fragile, carved from something breakable. He turned away before the ache in his chest broke through. Back in the kitchen, the lantern still hissed. The door still stood closed. He sat again, staring at it. His pride was a stone inside him, too heavy to move, too sharp to swallow. He thought of going after her, but the thought soured before it finished. If he begged, he would be nothing. If he begged, he would prove her right. He whispered again, the same two words, softer this time. I won't. The house settled into silence. Outside, the wind pushed against the shutters, but the sound never reached him. He sat until the lantern burned low, until the air grew cold. His back ached from stillness, but he didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the door, daring it to open, dreading it at the same time. The children slept in the next room, their small breaths carrying through the thin walls. They didn't know yet what the night had carved into their lives. They only knew their mother's voice had vanished into the dark. The man pressed his hands together, fingers laced so tight they hurt. He thought of her last words again, then hate me. He didn't hate her, not yet. But something inside had cracked, and the pieces would never fit back the same. The chair creaked beneath him. The fire hissed out its last breath. The lantern sputtered once, then steadied. He sat there until the night thinned, until his eyes burned from holding them open. He would not beg. He would not move. He would not speak her name again that night. The door stayed closed, and so did he. The sun beat down so hard it seemed to strip the earth bare. The fields stretched wide, brittle stalks rattling against each other like bones. He swung the hoe again, dirt breaking in clumps, the weight of it pulling his shoulders down. His palms were split raw, blood mixing with dust until the handle turned slick. He worked anyway, jaw set, breath harsh. Every strike was a refusal to stop, a refusal to collapse, a refusal to need her. Sweat stung his eyes. He straightened only to wipe his brow, then bent again, driving the blade into the ground. The rhythm was brutal, endless. By midday, his shirt clung like a second skin, streaked dark with salt and soil. His hands shook, but he would not set the tool down. Voices drifted from the road. Two men walking slow, their words meant to carry. She left him, that's what I heard. Ran off with money in her purse. She never come back. Can't blame her. Their laughter scraped the air. He kept his back turned, shoulders tense, swinging harder, faster. Dust rose around him, clogging his throat, coating his teeth. He swallowed it down. The men's voices faded, but the sting stayed. Every whisper in town carried her name, carried his shame. He had no answer, no defense, only work. The earth didn't ask questions. The earth didn't sneer. The earth just broke when he struck it. When the bell rang from the house, calling him to supper, he leaned the hoe against the fence and flexed his ruined hands. The skin split wider. He winced once, then clenched his fists until the pain dulled. He walked slow to the porch, boots heavy with dirt. Inside, the table waited. The children sat already, faces pale, eyes following him. The boy's voice broke. First, Daddy, you're bleeding. He looked down at his hands, shrugged. It'll stop, the girl whispered, almost too soft. Mama would have wrapped them. The boy kicked her under the table, shaking his head, but it was too late. The words sat sharp in the air. He lowered himself into the chair. The wooden legs groaned beneath his weight. The stew steamed, thin and gray. He picked up the spoon, but the girl's eyes stayed fixed on him, wide and searching. Will she come back? She asked. The boy shot her another warning look. She ignored it. His spoon froze halfway to his mouth. He set it down, slow. His eyes stayed on the bowl, not the way she left. The children stared at him, not understanding, not sure if that was hope or the end of hope. The boy pressed, voice shaking. What do you mean? He looked at his son then, gaze steady, hard. She made a choice. Choices don't walk backward. The girl's lips trembled. But she loves us. His jaw clenched. Love don't keep people from walking away. Silence swallowed the table. The children lowered their eyes to the bowls, spoons clinking soft, careful. He ate slow, every bite tasting of ash. The food turned to dust in his mouth, sticking to his throat. He forced it down anyway. He would not let them see him falter. When the bowls emptied, he stood, pushing his chair back. The sound scraped like thunder. He carried the pot to the stove, his movements stiff, deliberate. The boy whispered, "She come home." He turned, fast, voice sharp. "Don't say that again." The boy flinched, eyes wide. The girl shrank into her chair. He breathed hard, then softened, just a fraction. "I won't have you waiting at that door every night. I won't have you begging in your hearts." She left. "That's the truth." The boy nodded, eyes wet. The girl clutched her spoon like it could save her. He scrubbed the pot, the scrape of metal on metal filling the silence. His hands burned with every touch of water, split skin screaming, but he didn't stop. The children rose, carrying their bowls quiet, placing them on the counter like offerings. When the kitchen was clean, he walked to the porch. The evening air cooled his face, but his chest still burned. He sat on the step, staring at the road, dust swirling in the last light. His hands throbbed, every heartbeat pressing against broken skin. The boy came to the doorway. "Do you want me to wrap them, Daddy?" He shook his head. "They'll heal." The boy lingered. "Mama." "Enough." His tone was flat, final. The boy swallowed, then stepped back inside. The man stayed on the porch until the stars burned sharp overhead. Coyotes yipped far off. The night smelled of dry earth and sweat. He lifted his hands, studying the cracked flesh. The blood caked dark. They were proof he could hold on without her. Proof he didn't need her. Proof, or punishment. He whispered to himself. The same words he'd told the children, not the way she left. The phrase dug deep, more like a wound than a vow. He repeated it once, then again, softer each time, until the night carried it away. Inside, the children lay side by side, eyes open in the dark. The girl whispered, "He's wrong. She'll come back." The boy shook his head. "No, he means it. But maybe no." His voice cracked. "Don't hope. It hurts worse." The girl turned her face to the wall, silent tears soaking her pillow. The boy stared at the ceiling, fists clenched, trying to be as hard as his father. On the porch, the man sat unmoving, dust still clinging to his tongue, to his teeth, to his heart. The night deepened, and he did not move. The clatter of wagon wheels cracked against the silence of morning. Folks turned their heads before they even saw who sat inside. Gold trim lined the wagon, the kind no farmer could ever dream of. Horses, groomed slick and shining, carried it proud down the main street, and there she was, seated high, back straight, eyes forward, her hair pinned neat, her dress new. No trace of the dust she'd once lived in, no trace of the kitchen she'd walked out of. Only shine, only polish. Beside her sat his brother, reins loose in one hand, the other resting too casual on his thigh. People paused work to watch. Storefront doors swung open, whispers riding low but sharp. "That's her. Left her man for him. Never thought she'd do it. Money'll make a saint crawl." The man stood across the street, shoulders squared, boots planted in dirt. He said nothing, his jaw locked tight, his face unmoving. Only his eyes burned, following the wagon as it rolled slow, deliberate, a show staged for him more than the town. The brother raised a hand, tipping his hat. "Morning," he called, loud enough for all to hear. The woman didn't look at the man. Her gaze slid over him as if he were air, as if he'd never mattered. That cut deeper than any laugh, deeper than any whisper. The wagon rolled past, gold catching sunlight. The crowd's murmurs swelled. Heads turning between the man in the dirt and the couple riding above them. He turned away, walked stiff toward the alley behind the feed store. The shadows there cooled the heat in his chest, but only barely. He stood waiting, fists knotted, breath tight. Footsteps followed. His brother's voice came low, smooth. Couldn't stay quiet forever, could you? The man didn't face him. You enjoy the show? The brother chuckled. You saw her. She looks better beside me. She looked better when she was honest. She was hungry then. Now she's fed. The man turned finally, eyes sharp, voice flat. You'll lose more than her. The brother smirked. I've already got what's mine. You don't know what you've got. A silence pressed between them, thick, mean. Then the brother leaned in close. You've lost. Enough. Stay down. Don't make me take more. The man didn't flinch. I've lost enough. Their eyes locked. Neither blinked. Then the brother stepped back, dust kicking under his boots. Good. Keep it that way. He turned, whistled, and walked back to his wagon, waiting at the end of the alley. The man stayed frozen, chest heaving. His fists ached, nails biting skin. The words swam in his skull, louder than the whispers outside. Stay down. He stepped out of the alley. The wagon was gone now, but the stairs remained. Neighbors lingered, watching him, muttering low, "Idle. Starve a man quicker than hunger." He walked past them, silent. Every eye cut into him. He felt stripped bare, humiliated not by her leaving, not even by his brother's show, but by the way the whole town drank it in. He had been made a spectacle. At the general store, old Mrs. Haskins clucked her tongue as he passed. She's happier now. You ought to let her be. He stopped cold, met her gaze. You don't know what she is. She sniffed, turned away. I know what I see. That stung worse. The truth didn't matter, only what they saw, only what they wanted to believe. By the time he reached home, his shoulders sagged heavy. The children sat on the porch, waiting. The boy stood quick. We saw her, Daddy. She was in the wagon. The girl's voice shook. She didn't look at us. He paused at the bottom step, dust swirling at his boots. He forced his face hard, steady. That wasn't her, not anymore. The boy frowned. But it was. No. His tone cut sharp. Don't say it again. The children fell quiet, eyes down. Inside, he dropped into the chair at the table. The silence pressed thick until the girl whispered, "Why was she with him?" He stared at the wall, voice flat. "Because he's got money. That's all. That's enough for some." The boy leaned forward, fists tight. "We don't need them." His father's eyes flicked to him, a shadow of pride under the weight of rage. "No, we don't." The boy's jaw clenched. The girl hugged herself. The silence stretched again, thick and brittle. He rose suddenly, pacing the room. His boots struck the floor sharp, restless. The words clawed out of him. They think I'm broken. They think I'll kneel. But I won't. The boy spoke fast. What'll you do? He stopped pacing, turned to them. His voice dropped low. Steady. You'll see. The children looked at each other, fear and hope tangled in their faces. That night, he sat on the porch, long after the children slept. The stars burned overhead, the cicadas droned, but his mind stayed locked on the image of her riding past him, her eyes forward, cold, untouched, the brother's hand resting near, claiming. He gripped the porch rail until the wood creaked. You'll lose more than her, he whispered, repeating the words he'd said in the alley. He let them echo, shaping them into a promise. His chest burned, not with sorrow anymore, but with something hotter, harder. Humiliation was a fire, and it would not go out easy. When the rooster cried at dawn, he was still awake, eyes red, fists raw from gripping wood. He rose slow, straightened his back, and stepped into the dirt, ready to work, ready to bleed. Each swing of the hoe that day was sharper, heavier, driven not by pride now, but by vengeance, simmering just under the skin. Neighbors passed again, whispering, laughing soft. He didn't look up. He didn't need to. Their words no longer cut the same. He was sharpening something harder inside himself, something waiting by sundown. His hands bled fresh, streaks running dark into the dirt. He flexed them, pain shooting up his arms. He smiled, faint, but real, for the first time since she left, because pain was proof. Pain meant he was still here. Pain meant the fire still burned, and he would not let it burn out. The paper lay flat on the table, edges yellowed but ink still sharp. His hands trembled as he held it, not from weakness, but from the weight it carried. One glance told him enough. The land, his father's promise, was signed over. The name written bold at the bottom was not his. It was his brother's. He set it down slow, careful, as if the wrong move might burn the whole house. The lamp on the table flickered, throwing shadows across the kitchen walls. The children stood near, waiting, their faces pale in the dim light. The boy leaned forward first, voice taut. "What does it say?" The man didn't answer. He just stared at the words as if silence might change them. The girl edged closer, her small voice shaking. "Is it bad?" He closed his eyes, then forced them open. "It's ours. It was meant to be ours." The boy's hands balled into fists. "And now?" He nodded toward the ink. "Now it's his." The boy spat the words. "He stole it." The girl's whisper followed. "He was always going to." The man stayed quiet. His chest rose heavy, his jaw tight, but no words came. The boy slammed his palm on the table, rattling the lamp. "Say something." Still, he said nothing. His silence pressed heavier than any anger could. The children looked at him, waiting, but he gave them only stillness. The girl sat slowly, folding her hands in her lap. Her eyes glistened. "So that's it?" The boy turned on her, sharp. "No, it can't be." "It is." The boy shook his head hard. "We can't let him." The man finally spoke, voice low, rough. "What would you have me do?" "Tear the ink from the page." The boy's eyes burned. "I'd rather tear it from him." The man's mouth tightened, but he didn't scold. He just stared at his son, seeing the fire there, a reflection of his own. The girl whispered, "It was always him. He wanted her. He wanted the land. He wanted everything." The boy's breath came hard, and he gets it all. The man pushed the paper away, letting it slide across the wood until it hit the lamp base. He rose slow, looming in the small room. His voice was flat, final. "Not everything." The children exchanged a glance, confusion shadowed with fear. He walked to the window, stared out at the dark fields beyond. The silence inside grew louder, stretching until the children could hardly breathe. At last the girl asked, "What's left then?" He didn't turn. His back stayed rigid, eyes locked on the land beyond the glass. His silence answered for him, heavier than rage, heavier than words. The boy muttered, "Hope's gone." The girl touched his arm. "No." It shifted. The boy frowned. Shifted where? Her eyes flicked to their father's back. To him, the man's shoulders rose and fell. He heard them. He heard every word. But he didn't move, didn't speak. Only the sound of the lamp hissing filled the space. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet, steady. "Paper don't make a man." The boy shot back. "It makes him rich. Rich don't make him right." The girl whispered, "But it makes him powerful." The man turned, then, eyes burning in the dim light. "Power ain't forever." The boy stared at him, lips pressed thin. The girl looked down at her hands, silent now. The man stepped forward, picked up the paper again, and held it near the flame of the lamp. For a moment, it seemed he might let it burn. The children held their breath, eyes wide. But he didn't. He folded it, neat, slow, set it back on the table. He said nothing more. The boy muttered under his breath, "Coward." The word cut the air sharp. The man's eyes snapped to him. For a heartbeat, the room froze. Then the man's voice dropped, deep and hard. Say it again. The boy swallowed, but his chin lifted. Coward. The man's hand slammed against the table, rattling the lamp again. You think I don't feel it? You think I don't know what he's taken? The boy stood, fists tight, tears stinging. Then fight him. The man's chest heaved. He stared at his son, his own blood staring back at him with fire. Finally, his voice broke low. Not yet. The boy shook his head, furious. Waiting don't bring nothing back. The girl grabbed his arm, pulling him down. Stop. Just stop. The boy tore free, storming toward the door. But he didn't leave. He stood there, breathing hard, waiting. The man looked down at the folded paper, the ink pressed against his brother's name. His hand shook again, this time not from grief, but from something sharper. He whispered, half to himself, he thinks it's his. The girl's voice trembled. Isn't it? His eyes lifted, fire sparking. Not in the end. The children fell silent. His words hung there, a vow shaping itself in the air. The lamp hissed. The wind pressed at the shutters. The folded deed sat between them all, silent proof of what had been stolen, silent promise of what must one day be answered. The boy sat again, chest still heaving. So what now? The man sank back into his chair. His voice was slow, measured. Now we remember, the girl asked. Remember what? He leaned back, eyes on the ceiling. That nothing's his until he bleeds for it. The boy's breath steadied, though the fire still flickered in his eyes. The girl held her hands tight in her lap, lips pressed. The man closed his eyes at last, the weight of silence falling again. Not weakness, not surrender. Something heavier, something waiting, and the children understood. Hope hadn't vanished, it had shifted. It now lived in that silence, and silence could be louder than rage. The sound carried down, the valley axes biting, hammers pounding, saws screeching. Each strike rose into the sky and rolled across the fields like thunder. From the rows of corn and dirt, the family stood still, tools in hand, and watched the beams climb one by one. The mansion rose like gallows, timber stretching tall against the sun. Men shouted, ropes tightened, nails bit wood. The brother's shape moved among them, pointing, laughing, commanding. She stood beside him too, her dress bright as a banner. Together, they looked untouchable. The boy spat into the soil, like he's king. The girl's eyes narrowed, like she's queen. Their father said nothing. He just stared at the growing frame, shoulders stiff, jaw locked. Sweat dripped from his brow, but he didn't wipe it away. The boy muttered, "That should be ours." The girl tugged his sleeve. "Don't." The father lifted his hoe again, driving it into the dirt. "Work," he said flat. But their eyes still drifted up the hill as the wood climbed higher. Shadows stretching further each day. At dinner, the sound didn't stop. Hammers rang even through the night, echoing faint as ghosts. The boy stabbed his fork into his plate. "They don't even sleep." The girl whispered, "Maybe they don't need to." Their father chewed slow, eyes fixed on the table. The lamplight cut across his face, sharp and tired. Finally the boy asked, "You see it?" "I see." And the father set his fork down. His voice was steady but low. "Eat." The boy's voice cracked. "How can you just sit here?" The man's hand tightened on the edge of the table. His silence answered louder than words. The girl's eyes dropped to her plate. The boy shoved his back. The sound of nails carried through the window. Later that night, when the children were still awake, they heard him. His voice floated in from the porch, rough, almost broken. "It should have been ours." The boy whispered from his bed, "Then take it." The girl's breath caught. She clutched the blanket. The father's footsteps creaked as he paced outside, words too low to catch. The children lay still, waiting, listening. The mansion climbed higher the next week. Its roof beams stretched wide, casting a shadow that reached toward their fields. Workers laughed. Wagons rolled in heavy with stone. The family stood in the dirt again, watching. The boy whispered, "He's building a fortress." The girl whispered back, "He's building a curse." Their father didn't reply. His hands bled from work, dirt caked thick in every crack, but his eyes never left the hill dot at the market. Whispers followed them. "That house'll be the crown of the valley belongs to the rich one now. The poor brother's nothing but dust." The man heard it all. He kept his head down, carried the sacks, loaded the wagon, but the words clung like burrs. The boy caught one of the whispers. "She's better off now." His fists clenched. He lunged toward the voice, but his father caught his arm hard. "Not here," he growled. The boy pulled, eyes blazing. "Why not? They laugh at us." The man dragged him back, voice like iron. "Not here." The girl stood quiet, eyes on the ground. She said nothing, but her silence burned. That night, he sat at the table again, staring at the wall. The children waited for words. None came. Finally, the girl broke. "Say something." He didn't move. The boy whispered, "It should have been ours." The man's jaw worked, his breath harsh. Then, quiet, he answered, "It still is." The children looked at him, eyes wide. He didn't explain. He just rose, walked out into the night, and stood facing the hill. The mansion's skeleton glowed with lantern light, beams tall against the dark. The boy followed to the porch. Then when the man didn't look down, his voice was a whisper, meant only for the night. "When it's finished." The boy's eyes widened. The girl stepped into the doorway, staring too. The house on the hill loomed larger every day. It was no longer just wood and stone. It was something alive, breathing over the land, watching them in their fields. And each night, the father's whisper came again, steady, heavier than prayer. "It should have been ours." The boy always answered fiercer each time, "Then take it." The girl never spoke, but her eyes never left the hill. The sound of hammers never ceased, and the silence inside their house grew louder. The knock wasn't a knock. It was a stomp, a demand, a law laid heavy on wood. The children froze where they sat, spoons lifted mid-air. The man's chair creaked as he stood. His boots dragged slow toward the door. Another thud shook the porch. "Open." He pulled it wide. The sheriff stood there, broad frame filling the doorway, hat low, coat hanging dusty. His eyes were sharp, cold as glass. The sheriff's boots pressed heavy onto the porch boards. He didn't wait to be invited. He stepped inside like the house already belonged to him. The man didn't move. "What do you want?" The sheriff looked past him, at the table, the children, the empty plates. His lip curled, faint. "You've been busy." The man's jaw set. "Say it plain." The sheriff adjusted his hat, slow, deliberate. "Leave your brother be." Silence filled the room. The girl gripped the edge of her chair. The boy stared hard, fists tight on his knees. The man's voice was low, steady. "I ain't touched him. Not yet." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "But I see it in you. You think you're owed something. You think you've been robbed." The man's silence was answer enough. The sheriff leaned closer, breath hot, with dust and tobacco. "You'll let it go, or you'll find yourself buried faster than seed in spring." The boy's breath caught sharp. His small hand balled into a fist under the table. The man said nothing, just held the sheriff's stare. The air between them thickened. The children sat rigid, hardly breathing. Finally, the man spoke, voice like stone. "Get out of my house." The sheriff smirked. "House? This, a shack. Your brother's got a house. Soon, he'll have the land too." He let his words linger, like a blade pressed against skin. The man's hands trembled, but his face stayed still. The sheriff stepped back. toward the door. His boots echoed heavy against the porch again. Remember what I said? Soil's hungry. It don't care whose body feeds it. The door shut behind him with a dull slam. His horse snorted outside, hoofs fading into the distance. The man stayed, standing, hands still gripping the doorframe. His breath came hard. His knuckles whitened. The boy broke the silence. You gonna let him talk to you like that? Quiet, the girl whispered. But the boy's voice rose, sharp, angry. He said you'd be buried. He said we ain't got nothing. The man turned, eyes dark. I heard him. The boy slammed his fist on the table. Then do something. The girl flinched. Stop. The man's chest heaved. He looked at his son, then at his daughter, both staring at him like he carried the weight of the whole world in his hands. He lowered himself into the chair, elbows on the table, face in his palms. Silence stretched. Finally, the girl whispered, "What will we do?" The man's voice came muffled, heavy. "We wait." The boy spat the word. Wait for what? For him to take it all? The man looked up, eyes blazing now, for the right time. The boy glared back, breathing fast, fists clenched, but he didn't argue again. That night, the children lay awake, whispers drifting through the dark. "He's scared," the boy muttered. "No," the girl whispered. "He's waiting. For what?" She hesitated. "For the hill to fall." The boy rolled over, anger tight in his chest. The girl stared at the ceiling, heart pounding with fear that felt too big for her small frame. On the porch, the man sat alone, the sheriff's words circling like vultures. He lit no lamp, spoke no prayer, just watched the hill where the mansion rose, its frame gleaming under moonlight. His lips moved, barely a whisper. "Bury me if you can." The next morning, the boy carried buckets from the well, arms straining. He glanced at the road, half expecting to see the sheriff again. The image of those boots on the porch wouldn't leave his mind. Heavy final, like a coffin lid shutting Dot inside. The girl helped their father with bread. She worked quiet, eyes on his face. He looked older, lines cut deeper, shoulders bent. She finally asked, soft, "Do you believe him?" The man's knife stopped against the loaf. "Who? The sheriff?" He stared at the bread, at his own calloused hands. Then he answered, voice flat, "I believe he'll try." She swallowed. "Then what?" His eyes lifted, burning. "Then he'll see I ain't seed to be buried. I'm stone." The girl nodded, but her stomach twisted. At the table that night, the boy brought it up again. "He'll come back. With more men." The man chewed slow. "Let him." The boy's eyes sparked. "You're not afraid?" The man looked at him long, steady. "Fear don't feed us. Work does." The boy slammed his hand again. "Work don't build mansions." The girl whispered, "Hush." But the father didn't hush him this time. He just sat still, the firelight cutting hard across his face. Finally, he spoke, words sharp as knives. "You think I don't know? You think I don't hear them laughing? I hear, I see, and I remember." The boy leaned forward. "Then what will you do?" The man's voice dropped low, steady as the ground itself. "What I must." The children stared, unsure if it was promise or threat. Outside, the mansion loomed taller, windows now cut into its frame, watching the valley like eyes, and every sound of hammer and saw pressed harder into their bones. But the echo of the sheriff's boots lingered louder than all. The crack came first, a sharp pop in the dark, then the glow. The boy sat up on his cot, eyes wide. Smoke curled through the window, orange licking the night. He shouted, "Fire!" The man bolted from his chair by the door, boots pulling on before he even knew it. The girl grabbed the water, pale by instinct. Outside, the barn stood bright as a torch, flames clawing the sky, buckets. The man roared. The children ran, tripping in the dirt, filling what little they could from the well. The man heaved the first splash against the wall. but it hissed useless, the fire swallowing it whole. Boards cracked, beams fell, sparks rained, the boy coughed, eyes watering. "It's him." "Quiet," the man shouted, swinging another pail. "Don't say it." But the boy's voice rose through the smoke. "It's him. He did this." The girl pulled at his sleeve. "You can't prove it." Another beam collapsed inside, the animal's cries cut short. The man froze at the sound, face twisted, then forced himself back to throwing water that vanished before it touched wood. Neighbors drifted from the dark, drawn by the fire. They stood at the fence, whispering. Not one stepped forward. The man shouted to them, desperate, "Help." They didn't move. One muttered, "Too far gone." Another shook his head, muttering low, "Not our fight." The boy screamed at them, voice cracking, "Cowards." The flames roared louder, swallowing his words. By the time the sheriff's horse clattered up the road, the barn was gone. Ash drifted through the air like black snow. The family stood in front of the ruin, skin gray with soot, faces lit by dying embers. The sheriff dismounted, slow expression, unreadable. He looked at the ruin, then at the man. Accidents happen. The boy lunged forward. Accident. He burned. It. The girl caught his arm, holding him back. The man's eyes locked on the sheriff's. He said nothing. The sheriff gave a faint shrug. Dry wood, hot wind, lantern tipped. Could have been anything. His smirk was small, but sharp. Lucky it didn't spread to the house. The boy's fists shook. "Say it again. Say it." "Enough," the man growled, pulling him back. The sheriff tipped his hat. "You ought to be careful. Land don't forgive carelessness." He swung back onto his horse. "And neither do men." He rode off into the smoke, leaving hoofprints in the ash. Silence hung heavy. The neighbors slipped away into the dark, whispers fading. The boy broke first. You just let him walk away. The man's chest rose hard. "What would you have me do? Fight him here, in front of my children, in front of the whole town?" The boy shouted, voice raw. "Yes." The girl clung to his sleeve, tears streaking her soot-stained cheeks. "Stop, just stop." The boy pulled free, pointing at the black ruin. That was ours, our animals, our feed, gone. And he smiles like nothing happened. The man's voice cracked sharp. I said, "Enough." The boy froze, stunned. The man never raised his voice. Silence stretched. Only the crackle of dying. Fire filled it. Finally, the girl whispered, broken, "What do we do now?" The man looked at the ash, at the ground blackened, where years of work had stood. His eyes burned, but no tears came. He spoke slow, each word carved deep. "We rebuild." The boy shook his head, furious. "Rebuild, so he can burn it again." The man turned on him, eyes blazing. "We rebuild. We endure. And when the time comes," he stopped, jaw tight. The boy stepped closer, voice low, trembling. "When the time comes, we end him." The girl gasped, "Don't say that." But the man didn't flinch. He just stared at his son, a silent understanding passing between them. They didn't sleep that night. They sat by the ruin, watching smoke rise into the black sky. The girl held her brother's hand tight. The boy kept his eyes on the road, waiting for boots or hooves to return. The man stared into the ashes, lips pressed thin, thoughts burning hotter than the fire itself. When dawn came, the barn was nothing but char and skeleton beams. The air reeked of smoke, clothes clinging with it. The family rose stiff, faces hollow. The boy kicked a beam, ash scattering. "He'll pay," the girl whispered. "Don't." But the boy's eyes stayed on his father. The man didn't speak. He only bent to pick up a shard of blackened wood, turning it in his hand until the soot stained his skin. He dropped it, slow, deliberate. His silence spoke louder than any vow. The girl understood first. She saw it in his face. His silence was not surrender. It was promise. That night, They didn't eat. They sat at the table, empty plates before them, firelight throwing shadows against the walls. No words passed, only the weight of what had been taken and the weight of what would come. The boy finally whispered, voice hard, "We'll make him bleed." The girl's eyes filled. She didn't argue this time. The man looked between them, his children bound by fire and smoke. He nodded once, barely, almost unseen, and in that silence, in that ruined house, the vow was made. No prayers, no shouting, just the quiet, burning oath of a family wronged. The boy climbed first, candle stub flickering in his hand. Dust floated in the attic, thick as fog. The girl followed close, pulling the rope ladder up behind her. Their father stayed below, silent, watching shadows dance on the rafters. The children moved slow, cautious. The air smelled of cedar and age. Boxes stacked high, trunks covered in cobwebs, old quilts eaten by moths. The boy whispered, "Why would he keep all this?" The girl shook her head. Grandfather never threw anything away. They dug through the nearest trunk, fabric crumbling under their fingers. At the bottom, wrapped in oilskin, they found a bundle tied with twine. The boy pulled it out, dust scattering. "Letters," he breathed. The girl leaned close. "Open it." The twine snapped easy. Inside, a stack of pages, ink faded but sharp, handwriting jagged with anger. The boy read the first line aloud. "To my sons, who will inherit nothing but loss." They froze. The girl whispered, "Read more." He did. "Our land was promised, signed in blood and seal. But he took it. He stole what was ours, and left me with dirt in my mouth." The boy's voice shook as he read further. "A curse follows this theft. As long as his name stands above ours, no seed will grow straight, no roof will stand whole. The law shields thieves, but blood remembers." The girl's breath caught. "A curse." The boy whispered. He knew. The girl's voice cracked. He let it happen. The father's boots creaked on the ladder. He climbed up into the gloom, eyes fixed on the bundle in his son's hands. He didn't speak at first. He just took a letter, scanning it, jaw tightening. The boy whispered, "It was him. Grandfather wrote it plain." The girl asked, "Why didn't you tell us?" The father shook his head, voice low. "I never saw these. He hid them, so I wouldn't carry his hate." The boy pressed, fierce. "But it's true. The land was ours. He stole it." The father folded the letter, hands trembling. "I know." The girl's eyes glistened. "Then what's left for us?" He looked at her, words like iron. "Not what he left, what we take." The boy's chest rose. "Then we take it back." The attic fell silent, the candle's flame flickering against wood beams that seemed to lean closer, listening. The father read another letter, lips pressed tight. This one spoke of nights without sleep, of standing on fields that once belonged to him, of hearing the sheriff laugh at his loss. The father closed his eyes. His voice was raw. He wrote it all, every lie, every theft. And I see it now. It was never just land. It was pride. It was our name. The boy's voice came sharp. "Then we end this." The girl whispered, "Not anymore." The father opened his eyes. He set the letters down on the trunk lid, flat and steady, as if weighing them like stones. His silence filled the attic, heavier than the words themselves. The boy leaned forward. "Say it. Say we'll fight him." The father looked at him, long and hard. "We will not fight like fools. We will not burn like our barn. We will take back what was stolen, piece by piece, until nothing of his stands." The girl clutched her brother's arm. "But the sheriff," the father cut her off. "The sheriff is part of it. He wears the badge for him, not for this town. He's another thief, hiding behind law." The boy spat. "Then both of them." The father didn't argue. He only pressed his palm to the top letter, ink smearing faintly under his hand. His eyes burned, but his voice stayed calm. This is the truth. These pages are our weapon. We'll keep them safe. The girl whispered, "It feels wrong, like opening a grave." The father turned to her, softer now. "Sometimes the dead leave us what the living refuse to give." The candle guttered, shadows shaking across the rafters. The boy shuffled the stack back into order, tying it with rough twine again. The father took it from him. "No more hiding. We keep them where no one can touch." The girl's voice wavered. "And if he finds out?" The father's jaw set. "Then he learns what it feels like to be haunted." They climbed down together, letters clutched tight. The attic closed behind them like a secret sealed dot in the kitchen. The letters lay between them on the table, the lamplight catching ink that seemed darker than it should be. The children leaned close, eyes sharp. The father sat at the head, hands braced on wood, scarred by years of use. The boy spoke first. "This is war." The girl shook her head. "It's survival." The father said nothing. Finally, the girl whispered, "Do you believe in the curse?" The father's gaze didn't leave the letters. "I believe men make their own curses. And I believe we've lived under his long enough." The boy asked, "Then what now?" The father looked at them both, his voice steady, low, certain. "Now, we wait, we watch, and when he shows weakness, we strike. Quiet, sure, like the fire he sent us." The boy nodded, face grim. The girl stared at her father, seeing in him something harder than she'd known before. The letters sat between them, silent witnesses, inked proof of betrayal carried across bloodlines. The house seemed to lean into their vow, boards creaking as if in approval. The man reached out, drawing the bundle close. He whispered, almost to himself. He thought the grave would bury the truth. He was wrong. The children watched, neither speaking. The lamp flickered. The storm pounded the roof, rain lashing the windows like fists. The children huddled close to the fire, shadows long against the walls. Then came the knock, hard, desperate, cutting through the thunder. The boy stiffened. "Someone's out there," the girl whispered. "No one comes this late." Another knock. Louder. The father rose, chair scraping. He moved slow, shoulders squared, boots heavy on the floor. He pulled the door open. She stood there, soaked hair, plastered to her face, dress torn at the hem. A bruise spread dark across her cheek. Her voice broke. "He cast me out." The father didn't move. "And now you crawl back." Lightning split the sky behind her. She trembled, clutching herself, shivering in the cold. "Please," she whispered, "let me in." The children rose from the fire. The boy's voice cracked. "Mama." She turned, her eyes toward them, wet, swollen with tears. She reached a hand out, but the father blocked the doorway. "You left us," he said. Her lips trembled. "I thought you thought wrong." The boy whispered to his sister, "She's hurt." The girl's face twisted. "She hurt us first." Another crack of thunder shook the house. The woman swayed, leaning against the frame. "I got nothing left. He took it all. Please, just the night." The father stared, jaw locked. He looked past her, out into the storm, as if weighing what mercy cost. The boy tugged his sleeve. "She'd die out there." The girl whispered sharp, "She chose him." The woman's eyes closed. Her words came weak. "I was wrong. I see it now. I had nothing when I left, and I've got less now." The father stepped back at last. One night, no more. She stumbled inside, dripping water onto the floor. The children stared, torn between longing and fury. The boy rushed forward, touching her hand. "Mama." She pulled him close, pressing her lips to his hair. "My boy." The girl didn't move. She crossed her arms tight. The father shut the door hard against the storm. His eyes never left her. She sank into the chair by the fire, steam rising from her soaked dress. She stretched her hands toward the flames, but they shook. The boy asked, "What happened?" Her voice cracked. "He showed me riches. He showed me promise. But all he gave me was fear." Tonight he threw me out like a dog. The girl's voice was cold. That's what you left us for. The woman flinched. I thought I was doing right. I thought I was giving you more than this house could hold. The father cut in. You thought wrong twice. She lifted her eyes to him. I don't expect forgiveness. His reply was flat. Good, you won't get it. The boy whispered. Don't say that. The girl shot back. It's the truth. The fire cracked, filling the silence. Rain hammered harder, as if the storm wanted in. The woman bowed her head. I'll go when it clears. The father's voice was steady. You'll go at dawn. The boy bit his lip, torn. He looked from his mother to his father, from the bruise on her face to the anger in his eyes. He whispered, why can't we be a family again? The father didn't answer. The woman cried, silent tears cutting lines through dirt and rain on her cheeks. The girl said, because she broke it. The boy turned on her. She's still mama. The girl's voice cracked. Not the way she was. The father leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching. He said nothing more. The woman whispered to the boy, I never stopped loving you. The girl snapped, lies. You left love behind. The boy shouted, stop. The father's hand slammed against the wall. The room fell quiet. He spoke low. This house has no room for lies. Not anymore. The woman looked at him, desperate. What about truth then? The truth is, I was blind. I thought wealth meant safety. I thought his name meant power. But it was chains. All of it. The girl's voice cut. You traded us for chains. Her mother's face crumpled. I know. The father's eyes stayed hard, but inside something shifted. He saw the bruise, the brokenness, the storm that spit her out. He saw the children, one clinging, one burning. He said, you sleep tonight. Tomorrow, we decide. The boy whispered, decide what? The father didn't answer. The storm howled outside, rattling the windows. The woman curled close to the fire, her body shaking from cold and shame. The boy sat at her side, holding her hand. The girl stayed apart, glaring, guarding her heart. The father turned away, staring into the dark window where lightning lit the hill beyond. The mansion stood there, its silhouette looming even through the storm, a reminder of everything stolen, everything broken. He whispered under his breath, not for them, but for himself. It's not over. Behind him, the woman stirred, lifting her head. Her eyes caught his. She heard him. Her voice was soft. It never is. The boy closed his eyes, pretending the storm could wash away what she had done. The girl kept hers wide open, refusing to forget. The fire burned low. The house groaned in the wind, and still, no one slept. The table groaned under the weight of silence. One lamp flickered in the center, casting shadows over their faces. Bowls of food sat untouched, steam fading into the stale air. The boy tapped his spoon against the rim, soft, nervous. The girl didn't move at all. She sat with arms folded, eyes cutting through her mother like glass. The woman lowered her head. Thank you for letting me sit here tonight. The father leaned back, arms crossed tight. His jaw stayed hard, his eyes unreadable. She lifted her gaze, voice trembling. I was wrong, all of it. I left what mattered most. I see it now. The boy whispered, Mama. The father's reply was sharp. You see it now, now that he's done with you. Her throat closed. I see what I lost. The girl hissed. You lost us the second you left. The woman reached for her hand. The girl pulled back quick, folding tighter. I didn't mean to hurt you, the woman said. The girl spat back. Then why'd you go? The boy slammed his spoon down. Stop. His voice cracked. Just stop. The father leaned forward, his voice cut low. Answer her. Why'd you go? The woman's lips trembled. I thought I could give them more. I thought his wealth meant safety. The father's eyes narrowed. Safety. or pride? Her breath shook. Both. The boy whispered. And what did it give you? Tears rolled down her cheek. Fear chains. A bruise for every coin. The girl's voice was sharp. Good. You deserved it. The father shot her a look, but he didn't stop her. The woman pressed her palms to the table. I came back because I have nothing left but you. The father's voice was ice. Would you be here if he still had the mansion? The question hung heavy. Her lips parted, but no words came. Silence stretched, louder than anything she could say. The girl shook her head. That's all we need to know. The boy's face crumpled. He looked from his mother to his father, begging someone to speak, someone to fix it. He whispered, Can't we just be together again? The father answered without looking at him. Together doesn't erase betrayal. The woman's tears fell onto the wood. I'm not asking to erase it. I'm begging to stay. The girl muttered, Begging suits you. The boy snapped. She's still our mama. The girl's reply was sharp. Not mine. The father slammed his hand down, rattling the bowls. The room froze. His voice shook with anger. Enough. The woman stared at him. If you hate me, then send me out. Don't torture me like this. He leaned closer. I don't hate you. I don't feel enough for hate. She flinched as if struck. The boy cried out, Please. His voice broke into sobs. Please, don't make her go. The girl whispered, Please do. The lamp flickered, shadows bending across the walls. The storm outside had passed, but the house held its own storm now. The woman reached for the boy, holding him tight. I'll never leave again. The girl stood. You already did. She turned her eyes on her father. Don't let her stay. She'll break us again. The father's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. The woman whispered, I'll sleep in the barn. I'll work. I'll do anything. Just let me stay close. The boy pulled at his father's sleeve. Say yes. The father's voice was low, almost a growl. You'll stay under this roof tonight. After that, I decide. The woman nodded, shaking. That's all I ask. The girl muttered, It's already too much. Silence fell again. The bowls of food sat cold, untouched. The lamp sputtered, threatening to go out. The father rose, his chair scraping the floor. He walked to the window, staring out at the dark hill where the mansion loomed against the moonlight. He whispered to himself, but they all heard it. That house should have been ours. The boy whispered back, Then take it. The girl's eyes darted to her father. She saw the way his shoulders stiffened, the way his fists curled at his sides. The woman whispered, Don't. The father turned. His eyes locked on her, hard and certain. Don't tell me what to do. Not anymore. Her face crumpled again, but no words came. The boy leaned into her. Mama, don't cry. The girl muttered, Let her. The father walked back to the table. He sat, heavy, the wood creaking under him. He stared at them all, the broken family, gathered under one roof, torn between forgiveness and fury. He spoke at last. Tomorrow, the truth decides. Not me. Not you. The truth, the woman asked, voice small. And if the truth condemns me, his eyes stayed cold, then so be it. The children said nothing. Their silence cut sharper than words, their stares a verdict all their own. The lamp hissed, smoke rising as the flame dimmed. The room fell darker, heavier. For figures sat at the table, a family by name only. The air between them thick with judgment and ghosts. No one touched the food, no. One blessed the meal, and no one forgave. The grave was nothing more than a crooked stone and dry earth, the weeds curling at its edges. The family stood around it, the morning wind sharp, carrying the smell of ash from the burned barn. The father knelt, hand pressed flat to the dirt, his jaw clenched as he whispered, I should have been enough for you. I should have fought sooner. The boy asked softly, Is he listening? The father didn't look up. He always listened. He just never spoke back. The girl squeezed her brother's hand, eyes fixed on the stone. Say it. Say what you came to say. The father's voice grew steady. No more stolen names. No more stolen homes. The woman flinched. Her arms wrapped around herself as if the wind cut through bone. She whispered, "Don't do this." He turned to her, eyes like steel. "You think I've got a choice?" Her lips trembled. "Revenge won't bring peace. It'll bury you with him." The boy asked, "Papa, does that mean we'll lose you too?" The father touched the dirt again, firm, final. "You'll gain back what was stolen. That's the promise." The girl said flatly, "Promises break." He looked at her, holding her stare. "Not this one." The boy's voice wavered. "What if he kills you?" The father's reply was sharp. "Then I'll die with my name clean." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You'd leave them orphans just to prove a point." The father stood tall, towering over the grave. "Not a point. A right. A home that's ours. A name that's ours." The girl muttered, "And blood to pay for it." Silence wrapped around them. The wind rattled dry leaves, carrying them across the mound of earth. The father reached into his coat, pulling out one of the old letters the children had found. He laid it on the grave, paper trembling under the breeze. He knew. He let it happen. "But I won't. I can't." The woman stepped closer, voice breaking. "You think your father wanted you to burn everything down?" His tone cut her short. "He wanted me to stand where he didn't. That's why I'm still breathing and he's under this stone." The boy sniffled, holding tighter to his sister's hand. "Papa, I'm scared." The father's voice softened for him alone. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Fear keeps you alive." The girl's eyes flicked toward the hill where the mansion stood, black against the pale sky. "He's still up there, laughing. He thinks he already won." The father followed her gaze. The house loomed like a scar on the land, its beams catching the first light of day. He whispered, "Not for long." The woman's voice cracked. "And when you're gone, what then? You think this house, this dirt, can hold them without you?" He turned to her slowly. "Better a home with grief than a home built on lies." Her knees weakened. She nearly fell but caught herself on the stone. Her whisper was barely there. "I don't belong here anymore." The girl's voice was cold. "At least you finally see it." The boy looked between them, his voice desperate. "Stop it. Please. Don't fight here." The father ignored the plea. He raised his right hand, palm open to the sky. His vow rang clear, steady, cutting through the morning air. "By this grave, by this name, I swear, no more stolen names. No more stolen homes. Not while I breathe." The words hung heavy. Even the wind seemed to pause. The boy whispered, "You really mean it?" "I do," the father said, "and nothing will turn me back." The woman stepped away from the grave, hugging herself. "Then you're already gone." Her words sank into him, but he didn't show it. He kept his eyes on the mansion. The girl spoke next, voice sharp as the edge of a blade. "If you go after him, we go too." The father turned to her, startled. "You won't." She lifted her chin. "You can't stop us. You think we'll just sit here, waiting for another fire, another grave?" The boy nodded quickly. "We'll help. We can." The father's face tightened. "Your children." The girl didn't blink. "Not anymore." The woman cried out, "Don't drag them into this. Don't stain them with your vengeance." The girl cut her a glance. "Better his vengeance than your shame." The woman staggered back, struck silent. The boy tugged his father's sleeve. "Papa, just promise you'll come back." The father bent down, resting a hand on his son's head. His voice softened. "I'll come back, or I won't. But you'll never kneel to them again. That's what I swear." The girl squeezed her brother's hand, firm. "We believe you," the woman whispered, almost to herself. "I don't." The father straightened again, shoulders square. His shadow stretched across the grave, long and sharp. "This ends with me, one way or another?" the boy asked, when father's eyes stayed fixed on the hill. Soon the wind picked up, lifting dust from the grave, carrying the old letter into the air. It spun once, twice, then vanished into the sky. The woman reached out as if to catch it, but her hand fell useless at her side. The girl whispered, "It's like he took it." The father said nothing. His silence was the oath sealed. The mansion loomed in the distance, dark windows staring back, the enemy alive and waiting. The children held hands tighter, knowing the ground they stood on had shifted forever. The woman trembled by the grave, unsure if she was mourning the dead beneath her, or the man still standing above. And the father, unbending, unbroken, let the vow settle into his bones. The dirt, the stone, the sky itself had heard him. There was no turning back. The mansion loomed in silence as the family reached its steps. Dawn still hid behind the horizon, shadows stretching long across the fields. The father pushed the heavy doors open. They groaned like a beast unwilling to be woken. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of polish and smoke, the marble floor gleaming with cold pride. The children stayed close. The woman lingered behind, eyes darting across the vast halls she had once walked with her head held high. The father moved forward. His boots echoed sharp against the floor. A voice rose from the staircase. "So the beggar comes home." The brother stood halfway down the stairs, dressed in dark cloth, a pistol loose in his hand. His smile carried no warmth. "I told you, little brother, some men are made to rule, and some to serve." The father's voice was steady. "You built this house on lies." The brother's smile widened. "Lies are what built every house worth living in." From the far hall came the sheriff, hand resting on his holster, eyes cold. "You should have listened. You should have stayed in the dirt where you belong." The children stiffened. The boy whispered, "Papa." The father raised his hand, calming them. His eyes stayed on the sheriff. "You've buried enough. Tonight, it ends." The sheriff smirked. "Ends with you." The woman stepped forward, voice trembling. "Please, no more blood." The brother laughed. "Blood's the only thing worth trading in this family." The father squared his shoulders. "Then let's trade." The room went still. The children clung to each other, breath shallow. The brother raised his pistol, quick and sure. "Say goodbye." The father's voice cut through the silence. "To hell with you." Gunfire cracked. The echo roared through the hall like thunder. The brother stumbled, shock frozen on his face, and fell down the stairs. His body struck the marble with a hollow finality, blood spreading fast. The sheriff cursed, pulling his gun. He fired wild. The father ducked behind a pillar, the children screaming. Splinters tore from the wood, bullets cracking stone. The father shouted, "You've hidden behind that badge too long." The sheriff's reply was sharp, echoing, "This badge is the law." The father's voice rang out, "No, it's a mask. For cowards." The sheriff's aim wavered. He glanced at the brother's body, eyes wide. The sight of the dead man broke something inside him. His breath came fast. The girl shouted from behind cover, voice sharp as steel, "Run, lawman, run, like the liar you are." The sheriff's hand shook. He fired once more, then bolted through the side door, boots pounding against the stone. The sound faded, leaving silence heavy and raw. The father stepped out slowly. His chest heaved with breath, his gun still warm in his hand. The children emerged, faces pale but unbroken. The boy asked, "Is it done?" The father looked down at the body of his brother, sprawled lifeless at the foot of the stairs. "It's done." The woman moved closer, falling to her knees beside the corpse. Her sobs echoed in the vast hall. "He gave me everything, and nothing." The father didn't look at her. "He gave you lies, and I let him." The girl whispered, "What happens now?" The father walked to the grand table in the center of the hall. On it lay a ring of keys, heavy and shining in the dim light. He picked them up, the cold metal clinking in his hand. He turned to his children. Now we take back what's ours. The woman lifted her tear-streaked face. And if it was never yours to begin with? The father's reply was firm. Then it is now. The boy asked, voice small, will we live here? The father looked around at the towering ceilings, the polished walls, the wealth carved into every corner. His jaw tightened. We'll live free. That's what matters. The girl stepped closer. Even if it's built on his blood. He met her gaze, especially then. The woman shook her head, rocking slightly on her knees. This house will swallow you, just like it swallowed him. The father's voice was low, steady. Only if we let it. He placed the keys in his pocket. The children stood still, eyes darting from their father to the body, from their mother to the grand staircase. The boy whispered, I don't want to forget tonight. The father rested a hand on his shoulder. You won't. None of us will. The girl's voice was sharp. Then we'll never forgive either. The father nodded once. Good. The woman rose unsteadily, wiping her face. You've won, but you've lost too. He turned toward her. Maybe so. But my children will never bow to this hill again. Her eyes closed. God help you. The father glanced to the great window at the front of the mansion. The first light of dawn pierced through, cutting across the blood on the floor, casting long beams of gold across the dead man's body. He stepped into the light, shoulders squared. His voice dropped low, a whisper, for his children, for the house, for the land itself. This house is ours. Silence answered him, thick and final. The children stood close, eyes on their father, their small hands clutching each other. The woman stayed apart, trapped between grief and fear. The mansion stood around them, vast and cold, but for the first time the father did not flinch before it. He held the keys. He held his oath. And outside, the sun rose at last.